So here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So basically, we are looking here at 5695. Of course, we're speaking about residential energy credits. And what you want to do is you want to put your name on the form here. So this is actually your first name, last name, pretty straightforward. You put your social in the to the right of the form. And on the screen, you can see here. And so part one really deals with residential clean energy credit. So here we want to put the address of the property. So we put the address, and the street address and the city, the zip, and the state. You want to put the unit. And so pretty straightforward, okay? And in terms of qualified, so line one, qualified solar, electric property cost, we have 5,000. Line two, we have 2,000. Line three, we have 1,000 in terms of small wind energy property cost. And anything geothermal, we have 4,500. So basically, you can see on the screen here. And line 5A, you have to check the appropriate box. In 5A and 5B, we put here at 2,500. I mean, those numbers, of course, are hypothetical, but I'm just showing you how the process works if you were to fill this form out. And so when you add lines 1 through 5B, so on 6A, you have $15,000. And when you multiply line 6A by 30%, we're looking at the 4,500, okay? So 15,000 times 30%, we are having 4,500. Next, I'm showing you on the screen here another, so the screenshot. So 7A, you have to check the right box. 7AB, you put the information here. And line A, you have qualified fuel cell property cost. And when you multiply line 8 by 30%, you have 3,000. And 10, you have the appropriate, you do the math there. And line 11, follow the math. Line 13, basically, again, we are speaking, when you add 6B, 11, and 12, you have 7,500. And 14, you have, if you go through the clean energy credit limit worksheet, you have 5,000. And line 15, you have 5,000 again. Line 16, you have 2,500. So I'm showing you on the screen here what the residential clean energy credit limit worksheet looks like. This is where you have to get the form and to actually do the calculation before reporting the data on your 5695. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. I'm continuing here on part two. We have energy efficient home improvement credit. So line 17, you have 17A, 17B, and 17C. So you have all kinds of boxes to check depending on your situation. And basically 17D, you have to put the property that we're speaking about here in terms of energy efficiency. And line E, you check the appropriate form. For us, it was no. 18A, you put the amount. Our case was 6,000, and 18B, we have 1,800, depending on the math that the IRS wants you to have. And 19A, we have 3,000. 19B, 900. 19C, 5,000, and 19D, 1,500. And 19E, you have a 5,000. This is kind of a straightforward. And 20A, you have 20A, and 20B, you have 2,500 and 600. So it really depends upon the numbers that you put on the screen here. And so basically, this is for section A, right? Now I want to talk to you about section 2. So residential energy property expenditures. So here, if you incur the cost for qualified energy property installed on or in connection with the home located in the United States, you have to check the appropriate forms for 21A and 21B here. So that's what we did. And then you have to enter the complete address of each home where you installed qualified energy property. So here we actually put, of course, you have to put the numbers and the streets, the unit number, the city or town, the zip, and the state to sort of qualify. And then 22A, you put the right amount. So 22B, put the right amount depending on the 30% the IRS wants you to multiply the number by. And so line 23A, we have 1,000. So this is kind of a cool. And when you multiply 23A by 30%, you have 300. And line 24A, we have 3,000. And when you do the math, when you multiply 30% by 3,000, you are having here, so when you multiply 24A by 30%, you are having here you have more than 600, but the IRS tells you not to enter more than 600. So normally the amount should have been 900, but they want you to put only 600. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 5695. I want to talk to you about Section B, residential energy property expenditures here. And it's one of those things where when we talk about Section 25A, we need to understand that basically that's not section line 25A. You have to enter the cost of improvements if like you have a replacement of panel boards, sub panel boards, branch circuits, or feeders, depending upon your situation. And here we have so 25A we have nothing. 25B we have nothing. So because zero, when you multiply zero by 30%, zero, of course. And 26, if 26 applied to you, you have to see what really works for you. And 26A or 26A, you can choose yes or no. For this hypothetical example, we put yes. And you have to enter the cost of the home energy audits. So 26B, you have 900. And one thing I want to say here is that you also have the ability to multiply line 26B by 30%. So here you have 150 when you do the math, and do not enter more than $150. So normally when you multiply 900 by 30%, you have more than 150, but the IRS tells you to actually put to cap your amounts at 150. And so when you add lines like on line 27, when you do the math here, you add 18B, 19E, 20B, 22B, 23B, 24B, 25B, 25C, 26C rather, you have a $4,550. So it's pretty straightforward. Again, the math is pretty straightforward. One thing I want to say here is that basically on line 28, you enter 1200 because basically it's actually the smaller of those two lines. And from line 29 we have nothing. Line 30, when we do the math, the amount we have is 1200. Line 31, in terms of the energy efficient home improvement credit limit worksheet, we are limited at 1500. And on line 32, energy efficient home improvement credit, we are speaking here about $1,200. Let me give you the approach you need to really pay attention to here when we talk about 5695. It's important to really understand that we are talking about home improvement credits. We're talking about energy efficient home improvement credit in terms of anything you do to optimize your energy consumption, if you will. And it's really important to understand that it really depends upon the kind of home you have. So when we talk about residential clean energy credit, for instance, in addition to the credit that I've just spoke about, I will speak about later on, you can also claim the residential clean energy credit. So this is actually the RCE credit when you acquire certain qualified alternative energy equipment for use in the home, and the RCE credit replaces the residential energy credit property. And so this is pretty cool. So the allowable credit is up to 30% of an unlimited amount of cost you incur to purchase and install qualified energy property, including you have a solar energy, you have solar electric, you have solar water heating, you have fuel cell property, you have small wind energy, you have geothermal heat pump property. This is kind of cool. And one thing I want to say here is that it's one of those things where you have to see what really applies to your specific property. And so when we talk about home improvement credits, for instance, actually it's called the residential energy efficient property, the REAP. This REAP credit was enhanced in recent years to actually include all kinds of credits to allow all homeowners to actually benefit if they do the right investments. You also have the non-business energy property credit. So this credit was enacted to help businesses actually survive and optimize their energy consumption. So we're speaking about eligible costs include the purchase price and installation charges for efficient heating and air conditioning systems. You have water heaters and stoves that run on biomass fuel. You may also claim a credit for the purchase of energy efficient doors, windows, skylights, certain roofs, and certain roofs, and the cost of increasing insulation in the house. However, you cannot include the installation cost for this equipment in the credit. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about what? Form 5695. Let's talk about the eligible homes. So the majority of the RCE credit is available for the improvement you make to any of your residences, whether it's your principal residence or vacation home. However, to claim any of the non-business energy property credits or the RCE's fuel cell credits, the improvement must be made to your principal residence. And your principal residence is basically where you live for most of the time during the tax year, and can include houses, houseboats, cooperative apartments, condominiums, and even mobile homes. So this is kind of cool. And if you own, let's say if you own more than one home and spend a significant amount of time at each, you may actually count one of them as your principal residence for the improvements you make during the tax year. And in terms of, there are some cases where you might have to think about tax basis adjustments. So the tax basis of your home is essentially the price you paid for it or the cost to construct it. The amount that you spend on the energy improvements will actually typically increase your tax basis. However, claiming either of the tax credits requires you to reduce the tax basis by an amount equal to the total of the credits that you claim. So this is kind of important. And so lowering your basis can have the effect of increasing the gain or reducing the loss you will have to report when you sell the home. However, since the tax law provides for an exclusion of up to $250,000 of gain from the sale of a home or $500,000 for couples filing jointly, the basis reduction might not have any adverse tax consequences for you. But the thing is that regardless of the outcome, it's always a great idea to retain a copy of your Form 5695. And so applying the credit to your tax return is pretty straightforward. So if you meet the requirements of this tax credits, you typically can claim them on your tax return subject to certain limitations. And this tax credits directly reduce your tax. So this is kind of cool. And because they're not deductions, they're not, there are credits, so they reduce your taxes owed. And this is kind of cool. And you always have the ability to apply them for future tax uses, also if you want to. In other words, you can reduce your future tax liability with these credits. So what are the steps you need to really follow here? So it's really important to really understand that we are talking about, so Form 1, you want the Part 1, you want to really provide a basic information about the property, about yourself, of course. So we're speaking about all kinds of data about things you spend to purchase and install any energy generating devices on your property. So be very specific with the amount spent on different types of qualifying items, such as the solar systems and geothermal heat pumps. And so you have to really be clear about that. And so Part 1 is pretty straightforward, and Part 2 actually is actually dedicated to the non-business energy property credit. So in this section, you need to identify whichever energy efficient improvements you made to your home and exactly how much they cost. And please make sure that you keep the receipts, because the IRS actually audits these types of credits a lot. The types of credits a lot more often nowadays, so be clear about that. And so when we talk about the residential energy efficient property credit, you need to understand that existing homes and new construction both qualify for this tax credit on purchases of geothermal heat pumps. So this source the Earth's natural heat from the ground in order to provide heating, air conditioning, and hot water. This heat pump must meet the requirements of the Energy Star program. You also have small wind turbines. So a turbine collects kinetic energy from the wind and converts it to electricity, comparable with residential homes. So to meet this tax credit requirements, the turbine can generate no more than 100 kilowatts of electricity. You also have solar water heaters. So those come in many different designs, but all include a collector and storage tank. So they use the sun's thermal energy to heat water. but the solar tax credit can only be claimed for heated water used inside the dwelling, not swimming pools or hot tubs. You also have a solar panel. So here we're speaking about voltaic systems. So this solar tax credit is a great option for homeowners who would like to capture light energy from the sun and convert it directly into residential electricity. So be sure your system meets applicable fire and electrical code requirements before filing Form 5695. And for non-business energy property credit, we're speaking about air source heat pumps, central air conditioning, gas, propane, or oil hot water boiler. You have gas, propane, or let's say oil furnaces and fans, water heaters, non-solar, advanced main air circulating fan, biomass stoves. So you have installation, roofing material, and windows and doors and highlights. So this is kind of important. Let me give you a bonus here before we close to this conversation. It's important to really understand that the bottom line here is that you are trying to save taxes, right? You're trying to really save the amount of taxes you pay, and so the Form 5695 relates to your federal tax obligations. But what you want to do here is that if you live in a state that also has a favorable, that has favorable legislation around energy credit, you might want to actually transfer the data that you have on 5695 onto whatever forms the state has so that you can also claim the credits at the state level. That way you actually are saving twice. And one thing I want to say here is that everything I'm telling you here, you can file it manually, or you can use the tax software such as H&R Block, TurboTax, Tax Act, Tax Layer to actually file this form, and it's just a lot easier. If you were to use let's say a tax software to file this form, and it's just a lot easier, and you don't have to actually transfer data from your federal form 5695 all the way to your state form. Things happen automatically in the background, and that's what you want anyway. And one thing I want to say here is that 5695 is pretty straightforward in terms of the property the credit you want to claim, and how detailed you should be in terms of describing the property, in terms of describing the investments you made, the stuff you paid to actually claim the credit. And also, one thing I want to say here is that this happened on an annual basis. So if you claim the credit this year, you will qualified also to actually claim the credit next year and all subsequent years. So this is kind of cool. This is why you want to be you want to actually be as thorough as possible in the first year that you claim the credit, so that the IRS has your data already and they have this this level of granularity, so they can approve. They can approve a lot more easily in future years. Let's say a subsequent credit request. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I was talking to you today about Form 5695. Let's quickly recap here. So I gave you the overview, the approach, the steps, and the bonus. And now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.